Good day, students. I'm happy to be here today. My name is Mr. Dasak PN, and I'm going to be teaching you intervals in music. This lesson is for JSS2 students. What is an interval? An interval is known as a distance in pitch between two musical notes. It can be measured from the lower to the higher note and from the higher note to the lower note. Since the distance is the same either way, the interval is the same whether ascending or descending. And how do we determine an interval? There are two ways that we determine an interval. First is called quantity. This has to do with the number of semitones. How this is done is by counting from either the lowest to the highest or vice versa. Number of semitones involved, that's what it means. And then the second part is quality, which has to do with counting of letter names involved. Okay, so we will be looking at types of intervals. There are five of them: major interval, minor interval, perfect interval, augmented interval, and diminished interval. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't bug you with too much details about it. We'll just uh, use a chart later on in the lesson to be able to work out our intervals. But for now, just know it and memorize that the five kinds of intervals or types of intervals that we have are major interval, minor interval, perfect interval, augmented interval, and diminished interval. Can we go one more time, please? You said major interval, minor interval, perfect interval, augmented interval, and diminished interval. All right, so that's very good. Let's try and see. So how do we work it out? How do we work an interval? Now, after you've learned all this, you need to try out an interval and see for yourself how it works. Okay, first and foremost, if you are given an interval like this, we have C and G. So pam pam, okay, pam pam, and you have to work it out. How do you approach it? Good. I've been wondering, of course, what is very relevant, what is important, what's so special about intervals. But they are what helps us understand the small units, the intricacies of musical notes, chords, and the rest of them. So it will help us to understand the relationship between these musical notes, and of course, interval is what does it. So we want to understand how to calculate this interval now. Quality. The first thing to do is to find out the quality of the interval. Okay, quality is here, which is the letter names. For example, the illustration above, that's in the previous slide, is from the middle C to G. That's why I sounded it for us, pam pam. Now, in counting the quality, you have to count all the musical alphabets from C to G. Very simple. So from C, we say C, D, E, F, G. Correct. Did I get you? Let's go together again. C, D, E, F, and G. And when you say count how many intervals, how many letter names are involved there, we say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They are 5 in number. Therefore, the interval is a fifth. Though we don't know which type of fifth, but yes, we know that the interval is a fifth. Okay, that's the one. So let's go to the second one, quality now. Quantity, sorry. Now, when we talk about quantity, we're talking about the number of semitones involved, isn't it? In this aspect, you will need to give close attention to the musical notes. We have to be treating right from beginning, ranging from C to G. We're talking about involving all the musical notes, all of them. So from C to C sharp is 1. C sharp to D is another semitone. D to D sharp is another semitone. D sharp to E is another semitone. E to F is another semitone. F to F sharp is another semitone, and then lastly F sharp to G is another semitone. Can you see? Let's count it now properly to see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now he said, please take note that in the counting of the semitones, it is the gap, not the notes. So if you observe, you see that I'm jumping like this. Okay, yes, but what we already have now, we have 7 semitones, isn't it? Good. So remember in the previous slide we said it has what is a fifth. Now we've discovered that it is having a 7 semitones. So C to C sharp to D. Okay, we've done this before. We know that it is having 7 semitones. At the end of the count, we are going to have 7 semitones. Yes, we've done that. Going back to quality, we realize that the interval is a fifth now, and now the quantity reveals that it is 7 semitones. So a fifth that has 7 semitones, what is it? At this point, we will have to visit the chart to check up a fifth that has 7 semitones. Boom. So we are here, and you see the interval chart. There are 1, seconds, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. So we are dealing with the fifth. Each of these groups of intervals also have their number of semitones involved here, and then when you check the number of semitones, you can eventually see the type of interval that we're talking about. So we've discussed this before. We've said that we have a perfect interval, we have a major interval, we have a minor interval, we have augmented interval, and diminished interval. So they are the people they are the intervals that are reflected all through this interval chart here. If you remember our details, we have a fifth that has 7 semitones. So a fifth that has 7 semitones is known as a perfect interval. So it is called a perfect fifth. That is exactly what it is. This interval chart is made available in your notes too, so you're going to be using it to copy to work out a lot of other intervals. But that's just a work. It's very simple. It's done. By the end of the day, you will realize that the interval we were trying to work out in the previous 2 slides has 5 letter names and 7 semitones. Therefore, it is a perfect fifth. Can you say it again with me? Perfect fifth. This is how we work out our intervals. Period. Also note that an interval that is within an octave is known as a simple interval, and when it is beyond an octave, it is known as a compound interval. Summary. Let's go to the summary. An interval is known as the distance in pitch between 2 musical notes. Intervals can be determined by quality and quantity. The types of intervals include major interval, minor interval, perfect interval, augmented interval, and diminished interval. An interval within an octave is classified as a simple interval, while intervals beyond an octave are compound. So activity now, you have some work to do. Answer these questions neatly. What is an interval? Mention 5 types of interval you know. What are the 2 ways of determining an interval? Kindly work out the following intervals. So we have the following intervals. You see CE here. Then we have C and G here. We have C and D here, and we have C and C here. So kindly work it out. When you're done, write your name, your class, and your school. Then snap it and send it to this email. Is that understood? The email displaying on your screen right now. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.